Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "They Wanted the Safe Combo." When I was in the military years ago, my shop unit was a skeleton staff, which meant I, as a lower-ranking enlisted person, was given tasks way above my pay grade. One of which was safeguarding the old safe in the unit. I had a high clearance, but had to be read in at a higher clearance to access the safe I was in charge of. This plays a huge part later in the story. I spent a couple months organizing and clearing out the safe, and during that time, the only person who could read the access clearance to the safe had retired, so I was the only person in my unit with the safe code. This unit treated me horribly. I was in tears almost every day as a lower rank, with new higher ranking personnel coming into the shop and treating me like crap because I was lower ranking, though for a year I had been acting as a higher ranking position to manage the shop. Finally, I got transferred to a different unit, and out of that shop. The shop I transferred into wasn't classified, whereas the shop I was previously in required top secret clearance. About a month after I started my new position, two higher ranking personnel came to see me in my new office. They were a part of the shop where I was treated like crap when we were assigned new members, and were included in those treating me like crap after I had been running the shop for months. They wanted the safe code, which legally, I wasn't allowed to give them. Since we were in an unsecured location, and they hadn't been read in to get the clearance to access the code, I refused to give them the safe code, and refused to go into the secure building to even be able to discuss the code, because I was busy in my current position. In fact, I was the only person in my unit of 400 plus people to know the code, and since I was only given access to the code, but not given permission to securely read people into the clearance needed to know the code, I refused to give them the code, per the laws regarding classified materials. In the end, they had to pay for a special classified locksmith to fly down to break into the safe, and reset the code. The best part was, there was no information they needed in the safe. It was all old materials that we no longer used, but weren't relevant to the current mission. I thought it was beautiful payback for how they treated me after I managed the shop with my lazy bosses who outranked me. The next one is titled, "I Can't Order a Drink You're Advertising and Have Open Ingredients For." Fine. I'm in the UK and was with friends at one of the main coffee shop brands. I won't say which one, but it's similar to Costalot. It was a few days after Christmas last year, important for later. When I was served by the barista, it was obvious I was going to have an experience. This guy acted haughtily and spoke to people with a sneer, and came across like he considered himself a prince amongst men. He had a long floppy fringe that he kept brushing out of his contempt-filled eyes every few seconds. He clearly didn't want to be there or deal with the likes of me. Awkward for both of us. It was a two-man team, so a barista would take the order and make the drink. So he had to make whatever anyone ordered. It was very early January, and the shop still has advertisements up for Christmas seasonal drinks. I'm a fan of uncommon flavored coffee or hot chocolate, and said shop was advertising a Black Forest hot chocolate. Black Forest is basically dark chocolate, black cherry and cream. I ordered one and the barista looked me up and down and sneered, "That's a Christmas drink." Me, "Yes, barista, it's after Christmas." Me, "Yes, barista," smirking, "So I can't make you a Christmas drink." Me, "But you're advertising it and you've still got the ingredients open behind the counter. This drink is basically a shot of the flavored sauce, hot chocolate, and cream on top. It's not that onerous or taxing to make compared to a normal hot chocolate. It's literally a normal hot chocolate with a flavor syrup put in." Barista, sighing and rolling his eyes, "It's not available right now." I wondered if he was being a tool for some unknown superiority complex, was being lazy and didn't want to make this beverage, or if there really was some directive. So I threw up a weather balloon question. Me, "Okay, fine. In that case, would I be able to buy a single shot of a flavored syrup, please? It says they are 35p on the board." Barista, dismissively, "I don't see why not." Me, "Can I order a shot of the black cherry syrup there, but in a medium-sized takeaway cup?" Barista tuts and silently turns, gets a shot of said syrup in a cup for me and contemptuously places it in front of me. "Anything else?" he sneers. Cue my malicious compliance. I slide cup back to him and say, "Can you make a medium hot chocolate in this cup for me please, and stir it well before you put the whipped cream on top?" Barista grimaces and realizes that I've followed his instructions completely and still got myself a Black Forest hot chocolate. I stand and watch him make it, which he does with the most reluctant and bitter energy imaginable. For the record, it was pretty good. The next one is titled, "My Friend Working in a Cake Store." My friend texted me this story, so I literally just copy-pasted it. Here ya go. So I was working at a cake store nearby that sells a very specific kind of cake. Anyway, so the owners were literally awful. Paid me $7.50 an hour instead of the $8.50 I was promised, kept my passport for 3 weeks when I started for safety reasons, yelling, shouting, etc. Everything had to be perfect. Obviously they never did any work themselves, just sat on Facebook all day. They also took any tips we got to pay for their lunch. They would order us to clock out, then make us keep working. They would literally schedule me for shifts that started during my school day. I was still in high school, then got mad that I couldn't be there on time. Okay, sucky bosses established. So one day, I marked on the schedule that I wanted a certain day off. I marked this almost a month in advance. They asked why. I said I had a doctor's appointment. They said okay, you won't be scheduled for that day. Now, back then, when I said I had a doctor's appointment, it was honestly just a tactful way for me to say, I'm going to be in the hospital for a while. I was really sick back then. So the day comes and I go to the hospital like I had planned, when all of a sudden, I get the call. It's from one of the sucky bosses, the wife. Let's call her Susan. Susan asks me where the hell I am. I say it's my day off. She says I'm written on the schedule. I had worked the day before, and I double-checked the schedule every day. I wasn't on it, and I tell her as much. She says her husband, Rob, had written my name in that morning to work a shift because one of my co-workers was sick. She can't do my work because she's managing, sitting on Facebook. Obviously, I should have been able to telepathically see the schedule or something. I remind Susan I have the day off for an appointment. She says I should be done by now, and to get the hell to the store for work. I tell her I'm in the hospital, and am in no condition to work. Is she sure she wants me to come in? Susan tells me she is very sure. That is not an appropriate excuse. I want to see you right here at 2 p.m. sharp, or you're fired. Fine. I go into work. It is glorious. I am on so many pain meds I can't walk straight. My eyes are red. Soon, I can barely stand up. I'm in tears as I'm ringing up customers. Susan is shrieking like a banshee at me because I keep making mistakes. I'm just standing there taking it, mostly because I'm completely out of it at this point. That's when it happened. We had all known an inspector was coming sometime that week, from the regional department or something. We figured he hadn't stopped by yet. He was in the store. Undercover, I guess. He didn't say anything. He just walked out. I later got an email from him asking what had happened, so I told him. I told him Susan had threatened that I would be fired if I didn't come in. I found out later that week Susan was being fined a couple grand. I found this out because she sent me a bill for the fine, a nasty note attached to it. I'd resigned already by the time she did. I never answered. The next one is titled, "It is past your checkout time and you have to leave." Okay. This happened some time back and all that noise. I work in a production facility that is heavily regulated by FDA rules and regulations. One of them is that anything that deviates from SOP has to be investigated. Strict deadlines have to be met, and although extensions are allowed, it has to be due to unforeseen circumstances. I have worked here for close to 10 years and I have a unique position that only I do what I do. I do it well and need little if any oversight as long as I meet weekly goals. I also step in to help review investigations and route them in the system for closure when needed. I am hourly and refuse to work from home since I am not getting paid for it, plus home is family time. I like to track my work through email, so if something unusual is requested of me, I ask people to send me an email so I make sure to do it. Cast me as me new associate supervisor as jerk. Peas, not my supervisor but outtranks me. Jerk, it's Friday and past your clock out time. What are you doing here? Me, helping out a coworker who had to leave on time. Jerk, HR wants us to reduce overtime and there is no reason why you should be here. Me, don't worry about it. I am sure my supervisor will address it if it is a problem. Jerk, you are just running the clock. As a supervisor, I know a lot of things that you are not aware of. I think you need to clock out and leave. Me, I am waiting for an investigation to be signed off so I can close it. Jerk, well, your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency. Me, do me a favor. Send me an email so I can put it on my to-do list. Jerk, fine. By the way, you will get nowhere in life if you need simple reminders for things like go home. Email read something to the effect of, due to recent HR directive, personnel are asked to reduce overtime hours. You are directed to leave within 15 minutes as per our conversation at 5:30 p.m. today. Me, okay. Cue malicious compliance. I forwarded email to my supervisor and left. I get a frantic call Saturday asking me what the hell I was thinking having an investigation go overdue. I say jerk told me to leave, please see email I forwarded you. I get a call back begging me to run in and close the investigation, which literally would take me less than 5 minutes, and that includes a quick email check. I say sure, but since rules are rules, I invoke call-in rules. Instead of 1.5x my time, I get double pay for 4 hours minimum. My supervisor was ecstatic that I could go in, that she immediately said yes. Took my family with, had them sit in the car as I popped in, click, click, close, left and went for a nice family lunch. Jerk got written up as is the rule for causing an investigation to go overdue, and it directly affected his raise and bonus. Oh, and he never talks to me. That alone is a huge win. What a jerk, right? The next one is titled, Sorry, you revoked my overtime privileges yesterday. This was several years ago when I worked at a redacted big name coffee shop. My shift was 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., and often around 1 p.m. giant groups of kids on school field trips would come through the area. This was a coffee shop located in a major CA city, very close to a bunch of museums. I had been working a lot of overtime because of it, to help my coworkers through the rush. I got written up by my supervisor for doing too many overtime shifts without approval. I was explicitly informed to not work overtime again. I had lost overtime privileges until corporate deemed I could have them again, and working overtime again prior to that would result in further disciplinary action. The day after I was written up, right as my shift ended, 3 big buses full of kids unloaded and filled the shop. At 1:30 p.m. on the dot, my watch alarm went off and I went to go clock out. The store manager who wrote me up the day prior said, "Wait, where are you going?" I reminded her that I'd lost my overtime privileges, clocked out, retrieved the shift drink I'd made for myself right before the rush, and left. The next day I was informed my overtime privileges had been reinstated. The next one is titled, You Want the HOA to Enforce the Rules? I live in a small subdivision that has an HOA. You've all heard horror stories about HOAs, but this one is actually really relaxed in the compliance department. The HOA is still run by the developer and the management is outsourced to a third-party company. So no head of the HOA Karen that lives in the neighborhood constantly monitoring everything. We do however have a private Facebook neighborhood group. My neighbor is a complainer. He always complains about the ineffective HOA because people have installed sheds and above-ground pools. While these things are discouraged, they are allowed with ARC approval. Basically email the management company a modification request with the specs and pictures and they approve it. So all the stuff he is complaining about has more than likely been approved by the HOA management company. I don't think my neighbor is aware of this because he complains about it every few months like clockwork. So earlier this month I noticed my neighbor and a few other houses in the neighborhood had put out political yard signs in their yards. According to the HOA covenants, this is prohibited and there is no approval process. It's just not allowed. So I emailed the guy at the management company that handles our HOA to let him know. He emailed everyone that day to remind them that yard signs are prohibited and gave everyone 7 days to remove them before they get a violation. My neighbor posted last week about receiving a violation in the mail. He was upset. But hey, he wanted an effective HOA, right? Edit for clarification, HOA stands for Homeowners Association. Some neighborhoods have them. You have to pay monthly dues and follow rules that pertain to the appearance of the outside of your home and yard. The next on is titled, Not My Post. This malicious compliance comes from my time working at a bank, in their contact center. I literally have hundreds of stories about that place and its customers, but today I'd like to share a story that has always brought a smile to many a suffering customer service co-worker's face about the time we got one back for the good guys. Backstory: I was employed as customer service officer. I'd been with the bank for about 18 months, mostly working afternoon shifts, but recently the bank had moved to a 24-hour customer service model, so while most of the bank would be closed, head office, complaints, credit etc., we were still open. Let me set the scene. 10 p.m, midweek, fluorescent lights flicker overhead, the call board empty and I'm literally counting the seconds left in my shift, ready to go home. Phone call pops onto my screen. I think, shit. I always get a call just before I finish. Me, mustering my best customer service voice. Hi, thanks for calling, bank, you're speaking with absurd and nihilistic, how can I help you? I hear nothing but dead air, so I start to repeat myself. Hi, you're speaking with, when I hear the tone of voice and words every contact center worker has heard at some point. It just lets you know you're in for a great call, not. Customer, loud sigh, yes. I'm here. God, what takes you people so long to answer? What are you doing? As noted before, there was no calls on the board. This customer didn't wait in queue. He would have dialed, gone through to the IVR to enter his customer number and PIN before being put through to me. Max 60 seconds. Me, trying to not provoke any further and get this customer off the phone as quickly as I can so I can go home. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Our system doesn't show a queue, but I'm sorry that you had to wait. What can I do for you this evening? The customer seems to settle down and starts explaining that the reason for the call was the interest charges on the most recent credit card bill. The customer was sure they were a mistake because I always pay my bills on time and I don't like paying you bloodsuckers any more than I have to. Charming, I know. So I placed the customer on hold to look at his account. I started looking at the payment history, when payments were due, received, what the balances were etc. Then, I quickly looked at the customer's interaction notes. This is where the bank records any contact with the customer as well as any fee waivers, special interest rates etc. And I see an interesting series of notes from colleagues of mine stating things like, customer advised interest was charged due to full payment not received by due date. Customer threatened to close all accounts with bank. Manager approved interest waiver. Notes like this went on for months, until there was a note from our retention department stating, if customer threatens to close accounts to seek waiver of fees, interest or other charges, please process immediately. No retention authorized. I was a bit shocked because usually the bank would do a lot to keep existing customers, like they told us in training, it's cheaper to keep a customer than it's to gain a new one. So I call over my manager to read the notes and give him a heads up. I've got a feeling the customer is going to be demanding another interest waiver. My cool manager said, well, if he does, do what the note says. Total hold time, maybe 2 minutes. I take the customer off hold and thank him for waiting. Customer, about time. My time is very valuable, you know. So have you fixed it yet? I start explaining that the interest charges are valid because he didn't pay off his balance before the due date. The customer goes ballistic. He starts calling me every conceivable name under the sun and mid-sentence stops. He plays it like he's just had an idea. Fine. If the interest charges are valid, I'm going to close my accounts. I want to close my accounts with you now. At this point I'm excited about putting AC in his place, but I also want to cover my butt, so I ask, me, so, just to be certain. You are instructing me to close all of your accounts with us, including your credit card, savings account and transactional account. Customer, are you stupid? That's what I said. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Me, grinning my butt off, okay, no problems. I'll just place you on hold to do that for you. I hit the hold button fast just as I heard AC say, no, with my manager's help we close his accounts. His savings account was a term deposit, so by breaking the term early he had to pay an early access fee of 10% of the balance. We used the money in his transactional account to cover the outstanding balance in his credit card, including the interest, and sent a request for a check to be issued for the remaining money. I took the customer off hold. Me, again, thank you for your patience. As requested, your accounts are now closed. Was there anything else I can help with tonight? If I thought the customer went ballistic before, oh boy. There was talk of suing the bank, suing me, suing my manager, suing the head of retention. That we were guilty of discrimination. That I didn't have the authority to do what I did. He's going to call the police. We're thieves. Some other ways of telling me how useless I am and how I can kill myself. You get the picture. Me, still smiling because I know I nor anyone else at my bank will have to deal with this idiot again. Sir, ma'am, I understand you are upset. However, on a recorded phone call you instructed me to close your accounts. I've complied with your wishes. As there is nothing else for us to speak about tonight. Thank you for calling, bank, have a good night. And hung up on him before he could say another word. My manager created an incident report and sent it to the head of retention with an attached copy of the call recording. I later found out retention sent the customer a letter telling him he was banned from our bank for life due to the vile and disgusting way he had spoken to me. We would never do business with him ever again, and if he called or visited a branch, we would be the ones calling the police. Do you want to know what the total interest charges were that started all this? $30. His term deposit had $20,000 in it. He cost himself $2,000 in early exit fees because he thought he could bully his way out of $30 in interest. The last one is titled, I need to be retrained. I work at a fast food joint at the moment. I've been there for a minute, years, and was tasked with training a couple new management employees. I treated them like any other trainee, showed them a few extra tips to help them like I would anyone else, etc. Now I have one of them trying to tell me how to do my job every single day. Like I don't know what I'm doing. It drove me insane for about a week, before I decided I was done with that crap. I was taken into the office for telling this manager that they weren't following the correct rules. Threatened to be written up as well. Enter MS, I've been doing everything his way. My district manager, who I have known for years, came in and caught me breaking rules and almost laid an egg right between the sandwich station and the fryer in the middle of a lunch rush. When he politely asked me why, at the top of his lungs, I was doing these things, I replied with, so I won't get written up, and nodded towards the new manager. I immediately asked another manager for a break to grab a drink so I could stand behind the office and listen. Today was a good day. Thanks for listening.